Hello guys, I am Anime Mickey and welcome to my first anime fanfic Luffy's journey to become the king again. Credits in description. PLS subscribe to our channel always. Hope you guys will like this video. Let's begin. Luffy and the rest of the Straw Hat Pirates had done it. They had made it to the end of the New World and had found Raftel along with the One Piece. Along the way they faced many challenges and overcame many obstacles on their way to accomplishing a little more than half of their goals. With some more still to look forward to. Luffy had become the king of the pirates, Zoro defeated Mihawk and became the world's greatest swordsman, Usopp became a brave man of the sea, Robin had learned of the true history of the world during the 100-year void, and Frankie had built a ship that had taken him and his Nakama to the end of the sea. Of course some goals they just could not complete with one trip around the world. Nami still had many more islands to map as well as a majority of the Four Blues. Sanji had yet to find the All Blue but was confident he would find it someday. Chopper had yet to find a cure for all diseases but he was making a fair dent in the list with the herbs they had come across on some of the more unforgiving and uninhabitable islands of the New World, and as for Brook he was still waiting to see his old friend again after so many years, but he was happy watching his friends complete their goals. The same Nakama that had given him purpose again after all those years alone, adrift at sea. Even with everything falling into place, Luffy still wasn't quite as happy as he should be. He still missed Ace. He wished he could have been here with him to see his dream finally come to fruition. So while the crew was off enjoying the beach of Raftel, Luffy took it upon himself to explore the cave where the grand treasure, the One Piece, was resting. Luffy followed the twisting caverns and made it into the treasure chamber. It was an enormous cave deep in the island, well hidden, even though the island was tough enough to find on its own. Luffy began digging through the mountains of gold, silver, jewels and various other jewel-encrusted items. Something caught his attention. He would have normally paid it no mind on any other day, but today was different. He was thinking of things he wished he could change but had no power to do so. Not really giving it a second thought, he picked up the lamp that reminded him of a story Usopp once told him. Although he believed it was a lie, the long-nosed sniper had not been exactly the same after their 2 years apart. He took his hand back into the sleeve of his cardigan and began to clean off all the dust that had accumulated on it after 26 years or so of going untouched. Luffy dropped the lamp and jumped back in surprise as a plume of smoke began to bellow out of the small opening in the front of the lamp. Much to his surprise, as he stood there with stars in his eyes and with his mouth open wide, a figure appeared. The figure was looked like any other person except for the fact that he had no legs and he had a ghostly tail. Luffy was in awe at the sight before him. He stood there completely speechless, which was weird for Luffy. After a few moments of awkward silence, the ghostly being spoke. "Thank you, you have freed me from my prison." Luffy still standing there like an idiot and didn't move. "For freeing me from my prison after so much time, I would like to reward you." The ghostly figure spoke. "You have 3 wishes," the being kept going. "There are things I can't do and I will make it clear to you if you have asked for something outside of my abilities." Luffy had been surprised at first but now was listening while picking his nose with his pinky. "You idiot, did you hear a single word I said?" the being said in an annoyed voice of his savior. "Of course I was listening, I was just thinking," Luffy spoke. Skipping right to the point and being perfectly honest as he was known to be, just blurted something out. "Can you bring someone back from the dead?" Luffy said, kind of hoping the answer would be yes. "Unfortunately, I am unable to do that." Disappointed, Luffy asked another question to the ghostly figure. "Can you send me back in time?" The ghost had to think about how to answer, for man in front of him was rather dim. Yes, I can do that." Before Luffy could get another word in, the ghost continued. "But by doing so, by turning back the hands on the clock of the world, there will only be so many important things that you can change if you choose to do so before this reality changes or ceases to exist, being replaced by one that takes all of your changes into account." Luffy wasn't sure what to make of this information that had just gone through his head. He tilted his head to the side, showing his confusion. The ghostly figure was unsurprised by this turn of events. "Okay, to make it simple for you, the more of your own past you change, the more this time will change." Luffy put his right fist on top of opened left palm as if emphasizing that he understood. "So now that you have come to terms with the idea that this time will change, I have 2 more questions for you. First, is there a specific time in your life you would like me to send you back to?" Before Luffy could get a word in, the ghost began to speak again. Second, would you like to say goodbye to any of the people who I would presume are your friends outside enjoying themselves? Luffy stood there contemplating just leaving his friends without a goodbye, as he had never done that to anyone in the past anyway. The ghost then spoke up again. Second, would you like to say goodbye to any of the people who I would presume are your friends outside enjoying themselves? Luffy stood there contemplating just leaving his friends without a goodbye, as he had never done that to anyone in the past anyway. The ghost then spoke up again. To do this, I am going to have to dig through your memories, and from those old memories I will be able to create a portal to the time of your choosing. I will give you some time to think about what you are going to do. Luffy now had a lot to think about. He knew that thinking about all this would make his head hurt. So he did the only logical thing he could do at the moment. He sat down on the ground, crossed his legs, covered his eyes with his infamous straw hat, crossed his arms, and he fell asleep. He fell asleep without any hesitation. The ghostly being's jaw fell open in disbelief at what he was seeing. While the ghost was just staring at the idiot in disbelief, Luffy had begun to think back to his childhood. He thought about when he had first eaten the Gomu Gomu no Mi and the stupid bandits that made fun of his childhood idol Shanks. He thought about how Shanks lost his left arm protecting him from a Sea King. He wondered how Shanks would change had he not lost his arm so foolishly. He thought about how he believed he lost Sabo to that damn celestial dragon. He also thought about how happy the unexpected reunion between the two of them had been back in Dressrosa. He wasn't sure how things would turn out for Sabo if he saved him or prevented his boating accident. He was the second in command of the Revolutionary Army, only below Dragon himself. Luffy really had no idea how much Sabo had done to help his father with their mission of overthrowing the world government. The thing Luffy knew at this point in his life was that Sabo turned out alright. He thought about how Sabo wasn't afraid to brag that he went toe-to-toe with an admiral of the Navy, resulting in what seemed like a tie as neither side made any progress. He didn't want to ruin all his brother had accomplished by changing his fate and rolling the dice to see what would happen had he become a pirate instead of a revolutionary. With all of those memories floating around in his head, he suddenly woke and stood up, much to the surprise of the ghost. I have one last question before you send me back, Luffy said, looking up at the ghost. My body will change to what it was during this time, right? But what about my strength and mind? What will become of those? Luffy stood there waiting for a response to his rather intelligent and self-aware question. The ghost hovered there, kind of surprised Luffy could come up with such a question. Thinking about the question, the ghost had to pause for a moment before responding to Luffy. After finding the right words, the ghost spoke. Your current mind will take the place of the mind that is in your body back then. Luffy was excited to hear this. As for your strength, I guess only time will tell. He wasn't pleased when he heard this. One more question. What about my scar? What will become of it? Luffy said, very curiously, wondering what the Spectre would say. Well, it is tied to a traumatic event in your life, correct? Luffy nodded his head, holding back the tears that often came around when he thought of the events that led to Ace's death, and well, the rest was a blank after that, as he didn't know what happened until weeks later when he awoke on Lost Sub in an alcove of Amazon Lily. Well, if you go back in time well before you received that scar, it will not be there. But depending on how events turn out around the time you were to get that scar, it is tough to say. You may get it, you may not. Luffy seemed to be okay with that answer. You seem to be ready to go. Are you sure you don't want to say goodbye? Luffy shook his head side to side. I don't want to worry them. Besides, what would they think if they knew I was doing something so reckless? It would be impossible to send us all back to the same place anyway, as no one but me on the crew is from Kusha village. Their minds would have nowhere to go. Besides, they all have things they need to learn where they are from. What would happen to them if they suddenly found themselves in their younger bodies? Sure, some would be glad having all their knowledge and skills from today. But knowing how things would go for them in the years to come, how would that change the present or the new future? What would they think of me? Sure, some might be glad, but I can only imagine what it would be like for Nami, Robin, and Brooke. I don't want them to have to relive painful memories, all that loneliness, all over again. Knowing that I willingly made them relive their painful pasts would be too much for me, too much for them. I don't want them to hate me for a decision I am going to make that will affect them all. It will be better for them if they just don't remember. I did this all once. I can make it better for them all a second time around. The ghostly figure was amazed at the amount of thought that went into that statement. He cares so much for his friends, he's putting so much thought into this. The ghostly being thought to himself. Alright, let's do this. Those words snapped the ghost out of his thoughts. So, when are you going? The ghost said. Just think about when you want to go and I will create a portal for you into the past. Okay, I am thinking about the time I want to go back to. Luffy said, very confident with his decision. Well, if you are sure you are ready, would you allow me to place my hands on your temples? Using your memories and my powers will create a portal for you to go through into your past. In just a matter of moments a portal opened up and Luffy could see into his own past. He saw Makino's bar and he could see Shanks as well as himself as a 7-year-old. The ghostly being let go of Luffy's head and let him walk up to the portal. One last thing, kid, if you make it back here, let me know how it went. I am honestly curious about how you do a second time around. I am the only other being who will remember this even happened. This is goodbye for now, Pirate King. Good luck on your journey through time. Thanks, was all Luffy said. He was a little surprised to hear that someone else would remember this. Luffy walked into the portal knowing full well that when he woke up next he would be 7 years old again. But Luffy took comfort in thinking that he gets to have all sorts of adventures with his friends all over again. Hope you enjoyed reading this. Again, please comment your review. Thanks for taking the time to view this video.